Okay, if you're not a parent, when you do become a parent, you're so gonna know what I mean. It's just one of those weird things. My oldest is 5. I got one that's, she's 3, she's 4. How old is she? Okay, I got a couple of, Meredith and my wife are back there. They remind me of stuff. 3, and then one that's 1.5. Got that one. And then you're pregnant again, aren't you? It's my fault. Because it turns out only a man can do that. Anyways, I don't even care anymore. You're going to speak the truth in church somehow, right? It's weird that it's controversial. If you see me rolling my eyes, it's because I'm rolling my eyes. So I get very reminiscent about my daughters. Sometimes I'm that creepy dad that when they're asleep, I always go to their beds before I go to sleep. And so I'm the creepy one that like stares at them while they're sleeping. And so there was a time, I think about a week and a half ago, and this happens every once in a while for me, where life gets busy, super, super busy, and work gets busy. Maybe you kind of just really stink at being a dad for a few days, or a mom for a few days, and you kind of just blow it a few times. And then this creepy thing happens to me every once in a while. I go and I just look at my kids, and I just look at them. And so I was looking at my daughters, Hudson and JL. They sleep in a bunk bed. Presley's in the nursery in the other room. And I was looking at them, and sometimes I just like stop, and I realize when I do that, I start to just remember and reminisce about all the stuff that they've done, where they've come from, what they used to do. You know what I mean? Like literally they'll be doing something one week, and then a week later they don't do that anymore. So then it's like, oh, I wish you still were doing that one thing you did last week, right? But it's never gonna happen again. It's gone, it's done. They're grown up and they're out of that stage, and it's kind of a little sad, but you're like, thank you, God, that at least they're healthy, they're safe and protected and all that good stuff. So I'm like reminiscing and looking at them, and it causes me sometimes to just reflect and look at them and be like, you know, maybe I got a little too frustrated and angry at her, said something I shouldn't have said. And it causes me to reflect and realize that though life is busy, that though things are a little crazy sometimes, it's time to get back up and do what's right. You know what I mean? I think sometimes people don't view reminiscing as being important, but I think it's critical. When you reminisce, it gives you the ability to make course corrections. And you think, oh man, I'm not treasuring the moments like I should. Maybe I'm not acting the way I should. So let's course correct and let's do the right thing. And most of the time, those reminiscing moments lead to me doing what's right for quite a, period of time. If there were things that I was doing that were wrong, change it up and do what's right. So I'm talking about this right now, not because it's Mother's Day, but obviously it's communion. And so when I think of what we're doing right now with communion, it gets so easy to get so busy with communion. Communion's that thing that you just do every month, and it gets to this place where you're like, just like with kids sometimes, you're like, well, you're growing up, oh great, cool, and you move them on. When really, when you reminisce about kids, it causes you to pause and reflect and think and like be grateful and be thankful. And when you don't do that with communion, it gets to be very, very hastily done, like you don't even care anymore. It's just a thing you do in church, right? Communion's supposed to be the thing that brings you back to the very beginning. It's supposed to be the thing that you stop and you think, oh my goodness, what have you done for me? You know what I mean? When I do communion, it's got to be one of those things where I look back at the beginning and you say, God, you have been so faithful in my life. Without you, Jesus, I would have no hope of being saved. I would have no hope of getting better. I would be depressed. I'd be broken. I'd be helpless. So when I reminisce about what Jesus did on the cross, when I reminisce about communion, it causes me and provokes me to be grateful and thankful, just as if I would do the same thing for my daughters. So I feel like communion, every single time we do communion, should be this thing where we pause and we reminisce and we reflect on who God is, what he did for me. And so if it makes you go back to the very beginning, it should. And it should make you to remember how hopeless and helpless you were when you were a sinner. Right? You see it all out there in the world, but it's helpful when you look at yourself and you realize, oh my goodness, that's who I was. You guys know what I mean? So I was reading a little bit through all of the examples of communion, and this is one here in Luke. It says this: he took the bread and he gave thanks. I'll give